Fame is a strange kind of fire. It can warm you, lift you, and make the world feel like it's yours. But if you get too close, it can burn you. In 1984, Michael Jackson wasn't just famous, he was untouchable. Thriller had exploded across the globe. Every song was a hit. Every move was copied. Every appearance, an event. He wasn't just an artist anymore. He was a brand, a global force that corporations desperately wanted to attach themselves to. And one company in particular saw him not just as a star, but as the key to winning a war, the Cola Wars, Pepsi versus Coca-Cola. This wasn't about soda. This was about culture, about youth, about dominance. So Pepsi made a move that would change everything.
1983, Pepsi offered Michael Jackson 5 times what Coca-Cola thought he was worth, an unheard of $5 million gamble that would echo through pop culture forever.
They offered Michael Jackson $5 million to appear in a commercial. At the time, it was the biggest endorsement deal ever offered to a celebrity. But what looked like a simple business decision was actually something much bigger. But because behind the cameras, behind the lights, behind the music, there were risks, there were pressures, there were decisions being made that led to one moment, one mistake, one flash of fire. That would change Michael Jackson's life forever. To understand what happened that night, you have to understand the machine behind it. The early 1980s weren't just about music charts, they were about market share. Pepsi was chasing relevance. They didn't just want to sell soda, they wanted to own the next generation. And to do that, they needed someone who was the next generation. That's where Phil Dusenberry enters the picture, a visionary in advertising, a man who understood something simple but powerful. People just don't buy products, they buy identity. And no one represented identity in 1983 like Michael Jackson. Fresh off Thriller, Michael just wasn't dominating music. He was shaping culture, fashion, dance, sound, global perception. So Pepsi didn't hesitate. They came with an offer that changed the game. $5 million. To put that in perspective, no celebrity had ever been paid that kind of money for a commercial before. But this wasn't just about a paycheck. This was a strategic partnership. The deal included 2 major television commercials, integration with Michael's music, and sponsorship of the Victory Tour. People wasn't just renting Michael Jackson, they were embedding themselves into his world. They even rewrote Billie Jean into a Pepsi version.
Generation goes down and taste the thrill of the day.
Pepsi Generation. That's not just branding, that's infiltration. But here's where it gets complicated, because Michael wasn't making these decisions alone. Behind every move Michael made, there was a system, and at the center of that system was Joe Jackson. Joe Jackson wasn't just a parent, he was a builder of empires, a man who had taken his children from Gary, Indiana to global stages. He understood contracts, leverage, control, and by 1984, even though Michael was becoming his own man creatively, business decisions were still influenced by family dynamics. The Pepsi deal, it wasn't just about Michael, it included the Jacksons as a group.
Can't really say much today, but I would like to introduce some of the family here.
That meant shared financial interests, collective negotiations, strategic positioning for the Victory Tour. Joe saw opportunity, Pepsi saw profit, and Michael, he was caught between artistry and obligation. Because here's the truth, most people don't talk about. Michael didn't even drink Pepsi, but that didn't matter. Because at this level, it's not about preference, it's about positioning. And the deal required something simple on paper, 2 commercials, just 2, but one of them would go horribly wrong. January 27, 1984, Los Angeles, Shrine Auditorium. This wasn't just a shoot, this was a spectacle. 3,000 real fans filled the venue, lights blazing, cameras rolling, energy very high. Director Bob G had a vision. Make it real, make it feel real, and make it feel electric. Make it feel like a Michael Jackson concert. The concept was simple. Michael walks down the staircase, pyrotechnics explode behind him, he performs, the crowd erupts, and Pepsi wins. But simple ideas can hide dangerous execution because this shoot relied on something volatile. Pyrotechnics, not digital effects, no post-production magic, real explosions, time to perfection. And here's the critical detail. The timing had to be exact. If the spark went off too early, that'd be dangerously too close to Michael. If it went off too late, the shot wouldn't work. So everything depended on precision, timing, coordination, and perfection. But perfection is fragile. They ran the sequence multiple times, each take getting closer, sharper, and better. Then came take 6. Michael steps forward. The music hits, the crowd screams. Everything is aligned until it isn't. The pyrotechnics fire, too early, too close. The sparks shoot upward and connect with Michael's hair. Now here's the detail that made this devastating. His hair was treated with a product that was highly flammable. Within seconds, it ignites. At first, he keeps performing because that's what he's trained to do. Ignore distractions and stay in character. Deliver the moment. But then the heat breaks through. The flames spread, panic erupts. His brothers rush toward him. Crew members scramble. Someone tackles him to the ground to put the fire out. The music stops. The illusion collapses. And just like that, the biggest star in the world is on fire in front of thousands of people.
25-year-old star was hurt last night when fireworks being used in the filming of a TV commercial ignited his hair. Jackson suffered second and third-degree burns to his scalp, and he may need reconstructive surgery.
Michael Jackson fans can rest a little easier. The superstar was unexpectedly released from Broughton Memorial Hospital in Los Angeles this afternoon. Jackson had suffered second and third-degree burns to the back of his head last night during the filming of a glittery TV commercial. A hospital spokesman said today's release came because Jackson is apparently well enough to go home. Doctors earlier had said that he'd be hospitalized for several days. Deborah.
Michael is rushed off stage, then to the hospital. Doctors assesses the damage, second-degree burns to the scalp, but the medical description doesn't tell the full story because this wasn't just physical, this was personal. Parts of his hair were gone, the scalp damaged, sensitive, scarred, and for someone whose image was seen by millions, that mattered deeply, but the real impact was only the beginning. Recovery wasn't simple, it wasn't quick. Michael underwent multiple treatments to repair the damage, scalp procedures, cosmetic adjustments, efforts to restore what had been lost around this time. He also had another nose surgery, which added to the public speculations about changing his appearance. But beneath the surface, there was something deeper hanging. The burn affected how he saw himself, how he presented himself, how he protected himself, how he became more private, more controlled, and more aware. Because once something like that happens, you don't just heal physically, you adapt mentally. Burn injuries just don't hurt in the moment. They linger, they pulse, they stay with you. Doctors prescribe pain medication, strong medication, necessary medication. At first, it was about healing, managing the pain, and getting through recovery. But over time, that line can blur. What starts as relief can become routine, and routine can become dependence. Many believe this moment marked the beginning of Michael's reliance on painkillers, not for escape, but for comfort. Comfort that slowly became part of his life.
Singer Michael Jackson is back home tonight after suffering burns to his head last night during the filming of a Pepsi TV commercial. Jackson was dismissed from the hospital today against the advice of his doctor.
He has both second and third degree burns of the scalp. Fortunately, the third degree component is relatively small.
Michael's injuries were horrendous. Doctors used balloons to stretch his skin, and honestly, he never fully recovered, and that's when he got hooked on painkillers.
Completely appropriate for Michael Jackson to receive opiates for a burn. He shouldn't suffer. He should get the necessary pain medication. But to go for months or even years afterwards on opioid pain medications is ridiculous.
Pepsi faced serious problems. This wasn't just an accident. This was liability. They settled the case, $1.5 million. But Michael did something unexpected. He donated the money to the hospital that treated him, helping create what became known as the Michael Jackson Burn Center. Even in pain, he gave back. But behind that gesture was a quiet truth. The damage had already been done. Here's what makes this story so unforgettable. After everything, Michael kept going. He returned to Pepsi. He signed another deal. He kept performing, kept creating, because the machine doesn't stop, and neither did he. But beneath the performances, behind the music, there was something lingering.
Good afternoon. I'd like to thank the Pepsi-Cola Corporation for sponsoring the Dangerous Tour, which we plan to kick off in June. The only reason I am going on tour is to raise funds for the newly formed Heal the World, an international children's charity that I am spearheading to assist children and the ecology.
I know everybody's seen the logo at the bottom of the screen on the front page. That's right, baby. Alky Water. Now y'all can scan that QR code and make sure y'all test some of the crispness water out there, man. Tell them the front page sent you, and it's how we keep everybody freshly hydrated on the show, baby. Alky.